It's Friday when I film this. It'll be Saturday when this comes out. Hope y'all are having a great day. It is me, the host of the Dragon Family Show. If you know my content, you know who I am. You know what I talk about. For some weird reason, last night on TNA Wrestling, we have none other than Mickey James confronting Mrs. Fabulous. Yeah, Dana Brooks, as you may know, in WWE. But, that's right. That's right, the Fabulous one. And then, of course, you got the Dynasty, or whatever the fuck they call themselves, back there with her son. Her son's like, you're not supposed to be back here. You're not supposed to be back here, right? Saying that shit. And then they attack her for some weird reason. That's the only thing I seen of TNA last night. But hold on. That's not the only part of this video. No. But by any means. WrestleMania is in a couple of months. WrestleMania is April, right? It's also in Vegas. So my obvious question is, are you going to WrestleMania? And if you are, can you give me a ticket? No. I don't expect anyone there to give me a ticket. I'm just asking a question. Because WrestleMania is a big show. WrestleMania is the biggest show of the year. Right? And I think it's the same weekend as my nephew's birthday. So yeah, I'm not going. Okay? Right? But there's big names on that card. Okay? We have CM Punk versus Roman Reigns for the title. There's a lot of things going on to them, going on that card, on cards. Of course. And then WrestleMania weekend will be Independent Central, in Vegas, down here where I live in Tennessee, everywhere. Every state is going to have a frenzy of shows. Every company is going to have a frenzy of shows, and that's without question. So I got a question. Are you going to be watching WrestleMania, or are you going to go to an independent show? Right? That's just the obvious question. Are you going to be watching WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year for wrestling fans? Our Super Bowl, our biggest show? Right? Or are you going to be, watching an independent show that is trying to compete with WWE? I mean, hell, last year, UFC did a show the same time. Okay? Next part. Okay? Last year I went to an AEW show, as you may know. Right? I got a couple shirts. Right? Didn't get an AEW belt. It's like $800. Not the point that I want to make. Okay? But I would love to go back to an AEW show. Okay? I'd love to go back to an All Elite Wrestling show in the future. Near but distant future. I'd love to go back to an AEW show. A to the E to the W. Right? Okay? What company Why did WWE buy AAA Wrestling? I will never understand that. Why did WWE buy AAA? Why did WWE buy AAA? Like, was AAA out of money? Right? I mean, at least they're doing stuff with AAA, not like with Evolve, where they bought it and then a few years later they eventually did something with it, doing a show. But Evolve for years, they had it, they bought it in 2019, and for 6 years it was on the shelf. It was just cataloged on their shelf. It was just there. So you got to wonder what was the reason of buying it, buying Evolve, buying, you know, just because you guys once at one point in time owned International Wrestling Alliance, you guys own all these companies, you guys own ECW. It makes you wonder why they do this. Because money, because they can.